All right, here we go. 737-7767 is our numbers. We still have a few lines open if you'd like to get in. Your thoughts tonight, NFL playoffs, championship Sunday. At least the first part of it lived up to the hype. Broncos and Patriots was an incredible game. Star power certainly on both sides, but that's down the stretch. I mean, there wasn't out there on the field for Tom Brady between the injuries and no running game and all that. And he had to throw the ball down the field, and he made some spectacular throws. Gronkowski's double team. He's making catches that he had to make, and he made them in difficult spots, fourth downs, conversions, things like that. It comes down to a two-point conversion and an onside kick. That's pretty much what you want for Championship Sunday. The second game, even Bruce Arians said, I didn't see that one coming. And I don't know who did. Carolina just ran roughshod on the Cardinals last night. 49-15. Cam Newton, 4 touchdowns combined, passing and running. Just a special performance. And so now we have Super Bowl 50 between the Broncos and the Panthers in Santa Clara coming up 2 Sundays from now. And, of course, also, as we brought up in the last segment, Titans with new hires in the organization. Mike Mularkey, the permanent head coach. John Robinson, the general manager, new general manager of this Titans team. They also made a few moves today on the coaching staff. Mike Mularkey going out there and hiring Russ Grimm, the Hall of Famer, former Redskin Hog, to come in, be the offensive line coach. That is a generally well-respected move around the National Football League, and those guys have worked together before in their time in Pittsburgh. He also went out and got Deshae Townsend and brought back former Titan Steve Jackson to be his secondary coaches as well. Hopefully they can have an impact there, because that has been a trouble spot for that defense even this year after Dick LeBeau came. And really the defense was a bright spot for the Titans for most of the year, finishing just outside of the top 10. We go to the phones now and begin tonight with Danny. Danny, good evening. What's going on?
Hi, Steve. Are you still there?
Yeah, what's going on?
Okay. Well, a little late calling, but I wanted to welcome back. We missed you while you were gone.
Thank you.
You're one of the few sportscasters that I seem to agree with about 90% of the time. But first of all, I'll make my comment. Maybe I should ask you, what was the logic in moving the extra point distance further back this year?
Well, the logic, and what's interesting about this, Danny, is Bill Belichick was one of the chief guys who kind of pushed for that rule change, because they basically said that the NFL extra point from the 2-yard line was just becoming too automatic. And the stats sort of bore that out, that it was basically becoming a 99% it's going through the uprights, and you get 7 points every time you scored a touchdown. And the NFL, which is all about value and all about the entertainment, said we need to make that play after each of our touchdowns more exciting, more meaningful to the game. And Bill Belichick was one of the guys who kind of led the charge and said, let's move this thing back. Let's make it 33 yards. Let's make it more of a challenge for these guys. And then when they miss a few, that brings a little bit more of the schematics and the strategy into the game. And yesterday it certainly bit the Patriots, because, man, if Gostkowski hits that extra point to start, changes the whole dynamic of the game, and you're probably not talking about a 2-point conversion there at the very end. But that was the logic. It was to make that play more exciting and matter more often in games than what was becoming the automatic extra point of the past.
Yeah, well, that's what my issue is. If yesterday's game depended so much on the missed extra point by the Patriots, and just picture the scenario of Peyton leading a late game touchdown, less than a minute has to go. He leads them, 90 yards, and they score the touchdown to cut it to 1 or tie it, and the guy misses the extra point. I just don't see how that can be good for the game.
Right. And, I see it both ways. And, Danny, I greatly appreciate the call. It's tough because they want to make all these plays matter. They want to make everything matter in the game and don't want you to get up and leave your seat to go get your next beer or hot dog or whatever it is. right after somebody scores a touchdown. They want you to stay and watch the extra point. They want you to be more engaged in every aspect of their product. They did that this year because we saw more missed extra points in a couple weeks this year than we'd seen in years combined recently. But do you really want the extra point to decide your conference champion? And in some ways, that's what happened last year. Steven Gostkowski is one of the most automatic kickers we've ever seen in the NFL. It was like 522 or 24 consecutive extra points or something that he had hit until he missed that one yesterday. Is that how you want to decide games? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much and if there is much fallout from extra point gate, so to speak, with the New England Patriots, because that was a darn even game, and it comes down to a fluky missed extra point of one of the best kickers we've seen in NFL history. Is that how you want to decide the AFC Championship? Because it had a big role in who was the AFC champion yesterday. Good evening, David. You're next up here on SportsLine.
Okay, yes, Peyton Manning, I kind of want him to win this Super Bowl because of the season that he had this year. But I just don't see them getting past Carolina. Carolina's going to blow them out just like the Seahawks did. And I just want to say that Malarkey and this new GM, it looks like they no nonsense with this team that they're going to come out with. And I believe they're going to be better.
Nice. Well, we appreciate the call there, David. That's the hope if you're a Titans fan, is that this new regime can make the product look different. And again, I put a lot of the emphasis there on John Robinson and what he can do. And there were some interesting things. In a lot of ways, the Titans lost that press conference a week ago before they even walked into the room with Malarkey and Robinson, just by announcing that they were keeping Mike Malarkey as the permanent head coach. But I thought John Robinson was really good in the press conference in the aspects that he said, look, the measuring stick that we're going to go by is wins and losses. That is the measuring stick of the NFL. There's nothing else besides that. It's not about progress. It's not about short-term things. It is strictly about wins and losses. I think you've got to love that if you're a fan. He also said, we're going to find our players. Mike and I have a shared vision, and we want guys who are coachable, who are physical, who are tough, and who are all about the team. They laid out the identity they want. They want this to be a physical, tough football team, and that's the type of player they're looking for. I think you like that fact that it now feels like they're at least putting in a plan to have a real identity for the types of guys they want and the way they want to play football. And then the last thing, and this was his parting shot, it was the end of the press conference, the questions were done, and he said, hold on, I've got one more thing I really want to say. And if you remember only one thing from this, remember this. And he went on to say, to all the fans out there, I'm one of you. This is my home. I grew up in Tennessee. This is my football team. I became a Titans fan just like you did when they moved here in 1997. And I've followed them. I've wanted them to be good ever since. And now here's my opportunity to come back home. This isn't just a job. This is my passion. This is my team. And we're going to make every move that we make with that in mind. And with being great and bringing this franchise back to where it should be in mind. And he said, we're asking you for your trust. We're asking you to give us a chance to prove to you how hard we're going to work to try to get this done. Now, it's on him to get it done. But I think if you were a fan and you listen to all of those words, you've got to be excited about the plan that John Robinson has and the vision that he has for the team. That doesn't mean necessarily that, or automatically, that he is going to come in and make immediate impacts and the win-loss total is going to see immediate gains, or ultimately that he's going to be the answer. But that was well thought out and passion that the fans wanted to see that we've seen in some time from the Titans. So I think that's big. Let's go to Chris. Chris, good evening. You're on SportsLine here.
Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
Doing all right. First off, I wanted to thank you for the Rams, how you gave attention to the Rams leaving St. Louis the other night. I live in Clarksville now, but Rams fan since they came to St. Louis. I grew up born and raised in St. Louis. Big Cardinals fan, but we like the Rams. But now that they're gone, I'm almost a Titans fan by default. So
we'll take you. We'll take you on the bandwagon down here.
I'll tell you what. I love the way I'm in the minority, but I love the way they're handling the Titans. Coaching situation. I loved Malarkey. I thought he was perfect with the players. The players love him, and I love the GM hire. Anytime you get anybody from the Patriots, I think it's great. But my question for you is, if you were the GM, would you trade the pick? I know it's early, but what you can say about it, would you trade the number 1 pick, or would you do what the Rams did, and I thought was really successful when they drafted Orlando Pace? They, many years he protected that blind side of Bulger, of Warner, of countless quarterbacks in St. Louis. And my question for you, if you were the GM, would you keep the pick A, or would you trade the pick? And if you keep it, who would you select? Would you go on that offensive line? Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for the call. It is tough, and you even kind of said it there yourself, it's so early. I mean, we're just going to the Senior Bowl this week to see some of the guys for the first time under NFL instructions. You've got the combine and the whole process leading up to the draft, so it's difficult to make any definitive calls. But as I stand here right now, I think the best move for the Titans would be to try to broker a deal, try to gather more picks that they can build their roster with. Because when you look at it, we hit it earlier, all the holes on this team. You still got to build that offensive line. You need a playmaker in the backfield that can carry the load for you in that running game. There still needs to be improvements at the wide receiver position. You've got to get more help in your secondary, both at safety and cornerback. So there are a lot of holes on this Titans team that you're not going to be able to fill them all, even by drafting a terrific player right there at number 1. So I think if you can find a trade partner and trade and get yourself some more picks to try to plug more of the holes in the dam, so to speak, that's a great move. The problem I see in this draft is generally who do you see the trade partners for? When the Rams did it with Washington, we're talking about Robert Griffin III. A lot of those trades are big-time quarterbacks that are at the top of the draft, and at least right now, at the end of the college season and before the silly season getting ready for the NFL draft, there doesn't appear to be a Robert Griffin III even, or certainly an Andrew Luck, or last year Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. Who is that guy? Can Jared Goff or Paxton Lynch do enough this spring to climb all those draft charts and get themselves to a point where somebody needs to trade up to number 1 to ensure that spot, to ensure that they get those guys there? That's the ideal thing, and I think if you're a Titans fan, that's what you got to hope for, that one of those guys just knocks these all-star games and the combine completely out of the park. Or you've got to identify a team that desperately needs the Orlando Pace. They need Laramie Tunsil in this draft, or they think Joey Bosa is going to be the next J.J. Watt. Whatever it is, that's the hard part, is identifying the trade partner. But if they can do it, I think that's the way to go if you're the Titans, because there's just so many holes to fill. You can't do it all with just the number 1 pick in the draft. Let's try and squeeze John in here before we go to a break. John, thanks for the call. Hey, John, you're on the air.
Ma'am?
Yep, you're up.
Oh, yes, sir. I think, yes, sir. Hello?
John, turn down your television and go ahead.
Hold on. Yes, sir. I think at GM and our coach, I think we need to give them a chance. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think we ought to give the coach and the GM a chance. I think they'll be a good coach, and I think we got a good GM. But I think we ought to
get rid of the backup quarterback because he didn't show me nothing. He ain't never won a game since he's been here. And I think, we ought to get somebody like that back up, our franchise quarterback. But I'm going to hang up to hear you comment on that, and I thank you for having me on.
All right, John. Thank you for the call. Here's the thing. Zach Mettenberger's not going anywhere. I mean, it's clearly Marcus Mariota's team, but Zach Mettenberger gives you some value there. He is a draft pick quarterback that's young. He at times has shown that he can be productive. He hasn't won a game, you're right, but frankly, the Titans haven't won many games over the last 2 years. He's got a huge arm. He can make every throw on the field. And at times, he's done some really spectacular things. He's also done some boneheaded things and has not been as successful as anyone would like around here. But he gives you some value back there. And if you're the Titans, I think you got to hope that Zach Mettenberger comes in, performs well in preseason next year, and try and push that value up a little bit. And if he gets action next year, performs okay. Because if he does, he's the type of guy you could trade at the end of next season, before the end of his rookie contract with 1 year remaining. Give a team a chance with him. But you could trade at the end of next year potentially for some pieces. And when you're trying to build a roster, I think that's important. So Zach Mettenberger's not going anywhere for next year. And if you're a Titans fan, I think you got to hope that whether it's preseason or if he goes in because of injury or whatever in the regular season, that Zach Mettenberger performs next year better than he did this year when he got those opportunities. And the other thing, you talk about giving this new regime a chance. I think we all have to give them a chance. You don't know what they have or what they will be until they actually put a team together. And I think they're going to do what they can to make this team look significantly different in the offseason than what it did at the end of the season this year when they wrapped play up in Indianapolis at the beginning of the month. We got to see what they can do on the field. We got to see what type of a team that they build. And for Mike Mularkey, again, the record is what stands out to people. 2-7 wasn't fun watching him as the interim coach. 18-39 for his NFL career does not exactly inspire. But remember the teams he's done this with. And there's no question that Mularkey struck a chord within the locker room with his accountability and the way he treated players in practice, in meeting rooms, and on game days. And he definitely struck a chord with the ownership of the Titans. They gave him a few directives, and he went out and did everything he could with not a very good football team and with other people's systems. He did everything he could to do that. And so he was very much hamstrung when you look at that 2-7 record. And I think that goes into this decision as much as anything. He was a good soldier for them in a very difficult situation. He won over the locker room. And that's what won him this job. But ultimately what's going to keep him in the job is the job that John Robinson does in building him a football team. Because if it's the same team he had last year, Mike Mularkey, and I'll venture to say just about any coach in the NFL, isn't going to have success with that Titans roster. But make them competitive, and you give Mike Mularkey a chance. All right, we got to take a break here. 737-7767 is our number. Phone lines are completely open now, so if you've been waiting, give us a call. We'll try to get you in here in the next little bit. Also coming up on the program, my interview with Predators All-Star goaltender Pekka Rinne about the All-Star game this week here in Smashville. That and more coming up on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.